So what if Itachi had the Rinnegan, just like Sasuke eventually gets? Well, obviously this wouldn't be able to happen in the original series for several different reasons, but it's just cool to speculate about those what-if scenarios. So first we're going to talk about how Itachi would even go about acquiring the Rinnegan if that was one of his goals. Then we're going to go over how powerful he would be with a Rinnegan, and then maybe we can try and speculate on what would Itachi do in the verse and the repercussions of him having a Rinnegan. Now, as the lore stands, it's impossible for Itachi to have a Rinnegan. Only reincarnations of Indra can awaken the Rinnegan after they get some of Ashura's chakra, or an Ashura reincarnation. Madara is an Indra reincarnation, he gets chakra from Hashirama, who's an Ashura reincarnation, and technically Sasuke doesn't get chakra from Naruto directly, but Hagoromo literally gives his own chakra to Sasuke. That's how he awakens the Rinnegan, and he's also an Indra reincarnation. It's safe to say that, well, Hagoromo wouldn't really appear for Itachi anyways. However, the entire reincarnation concept is a massive retcon in the Naruto series. Naruto was not meant to be the reincarnation of a demigod when the series began, and neither was Sasuke. This came about much later with the introduction of the Otsutsukis, which was already a massive retcon in of itself, which ruined the Naruto series. So we're just going to ignore all that, like you should do anyways when you're reading Naruto, because it's all bullcrap, and assume Itachi would have to take the original steps that were intended for you to awaken the Rinnegan. In the original process, you'd have to be an extremely powerful Uchiha who would awaken the Sharingan and eventually the Mangekyou Sharingan. Then you'd have to steal somebody else's Mangekyou Sharingan to awaken your eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. That's never gonna run out of light, and then you'd have to get Senju Chakra, combining both the physical and the mental prowess of the Sage of Six Paths to awaken the Rinnegan. This is exactly what Madara did because he awakened it the hard way, not like Sasuke who just got chakra from Hagoromo himself. The second assumption we have to make is that Itachi isn't a good guy, because what he would have to do here is to essentially kill Sasuke and get his eyes, his plan that he showed to Sasuke in their fight, even though it was a fake out. But in this scenario, we're just going to assume that Itachi Uchiha was the character we were first presented with, the psychopath who just wanted more power and killed his entire clan to measure his potential, leaving Sasuke alive so that Sasuke can go and try to avenge his clan, amping his hatred because of it, eventually awaken his own Mangekyou Sharingan so that Itachi could just go and steal Sasuke's eyes to awaken his own eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. That would be the reason why Itachi actually left Sasuke alive, if Itachi wasn't a good guy. Now, there's a lot of debate among the Naruto fan if Itachi's being a good guy thing was a retcon or not. There are arguments for both sides, but this is not really the point of the video. For this video, we're going to assume that Itachi was a bad guy. And obviously, he was trying to get more power, he was trying to achieve what he told Sasuke in their fight to surpass Madara Uchiha, the man who failed time and time again, because Itachi himself was the one who deserved to be the leader of the Uchiha clan. Now, obviously, Itachi's goal in that fight against Sasuke, if he wasn't a good guy, was to collect Sasuke's eyes to awaken the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. He even put Sasuke under Tsukuyomi and shows what's going to do to Sasuke. Obviously, in the original, that was so that Sasuke would know what to do when he would eventually get his own eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. But in this scenario, Itachi would actually try to do that for real. But the thing is, awakening the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan to awakening the Rinnegan, there's a big difference there. But if Itachi was actually trying to become the supreme Uchiha and lead the clan and destroy the world, whatever Itachi's menacing plans were back then, he would probably stumble upon the knowledge of the Rinnegan and find out how to awaken it. After all, Madara did that, and I don't see why Itachi wouldn't be able to. Perhaps Madara could read more of the Uchiha Stone Tablet with his eternal Mangekyou Sharingan, and Itachi wouldn't be able to read as much with his base Mangekyou Sharingan, and that's the difference between the knowledge they could acquire. But there are other means for Itachi to find out about the Rinnegan's existence and how to awaken it. After all, Pain/Nagato is in the Akatsuki, and he literally has a Rinnegan. Also, Obito/Madara there, he knew what the Rinnegan was exactly, and he could tell Itachi as well if Itachi prodded him. Besides, Itachi was able to find the Toad Skull Blade and the Atom Mirror, two weapons that are extremely legendary in the verse, and we don't know exactly how he did it, but he did so, and those two weapons were very coveted, especially by Orochimaru, who never really knew what they were. And Itachi makes it seem like it wasn't really a big deal to find them. So if he wants information on how to awaken the Rinnegan, it's likely that he would find, and he would know that he needs to acquire Senju Chakra, or at least chakra that descends from the younger son of the Sage of Six Paths, after awakening his own EMS. But regardless, everything would have to start with him acquiring the EMS anyways. If we assume everything stays pretty much the same up until the Itachi versus Sasuke fight, which I don't see why it wouldn't. Itachi would still want to preserve Sasuke's life up until that point because he needs Sasuke's eyes when they are powerful, but Itachi would have two big problems in this version of the story where he is evil and trying to survive and become the strongest Uchiha. The first one is that Sasuke has failed the task Itachi gave to him all those years ago, and he couldn't bring himself to kill his best friend, so he didn't awaken the Mangekyou Sharingan. Sasuke fights Itachi with a base Sharingan, which is probably not going to work out when Itachi uses Sasuke's eyes to awaken his EMS. After all, Sasuke doesn't have an MS. And that's kind of the whole point, right? You need your brother slash parent slash whatever close relative to awaken a Mangekyou like you and then transplant their eyes into your sockets. But Sasuke didn't do that. Also, Itachi is dying of a terrible, unspecified disease that's gonna kill him very shortly. I mean, it's literally what kills Itachi in the fight against Sasuke, and not Sasuke himself. He just collapses after using a lot of chakra, but it's not because he expended all of his chakra, it's because of the disease that he dies. So he would have to solve these two problems. Now, solving the Mangekyou Sharingan problem is actually not very difficult, especially for someone like Itachi who is extremely intelligent. He would know about Sasuke's relationship and bonds with several people in the Leaf Village. And these people from the Leaf Village just so happened to be looking for Sasuke and Itachi just when Sasuke was about to go and fight Itachi. In the original series, Itachi even contacts Naruto, the original Naruto, and puts him under a genjutsu so that Itachi can give him Shisui's crow with Shisui's Mangekyou Sharingan in there. Sakura is also among their team there, and also Kakashi. So it would be very easy for Itachi to just capture Kakashi, Sakura, and Naruto so that he could use them later in the fight against Sasuke to awaken Sasuke's Mangekyou Sharingan. I guess you could say capturing Kakashi wouldn't be that easy for Itachi, but Itachi was still massively more powerful than Kakashi in that point of the story. He could probably do that very easily, and Kisame would probably help him out too. Kisame was just doing everything Itachi wanted him to do, and they seem to be pretty good friends. So if Itachi asked Kisame to go and help him capture Kakashi with him, he would just probably go. Sakura and Naruto are non-threats for Itachi in this part of the story. I mean, Naruto loses to Itachi in 0.2 seconds. He doesn't realize he's under genjutsu, and yeah, he's already lost. So the next step for Itachi would be to go and fight against Sasuke after capturing Team 7, really. And one thing we have to understand is that Itachi didn't really fight seriously against Sasuke in the original series. This is remarked several times by Zetsu saying, yeah, Itachi, he wasn't doing very well. Of course, he still had the disease, but then later on, Obito says, yeah, if Itachi wanted to kill you, he would have, kind of easily. The reason why Sasuke survived, according to Obito, is because Itachi let him. And this is very evident when Sasuke was just fighting for his life against Itachi, and Itachi was manipulating the fight the exact way he wanted so that Orochimaru would eventually come out so that Itachi could seal Orochimaru away. And once Orochimaru comes out, Itachi fights seriously, and it takes less than a minute for him to defeat Orochimaru in a very humiliating fashion. So if Itachi was fighting seriously against heavy Sasuke from the get-go, Sasuke wouldn't really have much of a chance, and it wouldn't be much of a fight at all. He would beat Sasuke kind of easily, and then when Sasuke is completely subdued, not dead of course, but subdued, Itachi would kill Team 7 in front of Sasuke. He could do that in order, perhaps starting with Sakura, then Kakashi, and then Naruto, trying to see how much it would take for Sasuke's Mangekyou Sharingan to awaken. And if he gets to Naruto and it's not enough, he could probably try and torture Naruto before Sasuke's eyes so that would make Sasuke extremely pissed and taunt Sasuke about not being able to save his clan, not being able to save his friends. It wouldn't be too hard for Itachi to awaken Sasuke's Mangekyou Sharingan if he wanted to. And yeah, he would do it, and Team 7 would be dead. I guess you could say there's a danger of Naruto's going berserk with the Nine Tails there, but Itachi can subdue that very easily. We saw how casually in the Tenchi Bridge arc Sasuke was able to suppress the Nine Tails' chakra when it was starting to come out of Naruto, and Itachi has much more ocular prowess than Sasuke, so it wouldn't be really a problem. And even if Naruto goes full Nine Tails explosion beast mode, Itachi just glances at the Nine Tails, using Amaterasu, and it's GG. Like, there's nothing really Naruto can do against Itachi here. It would certainly awaken Sasuke's Mangekyou Sharingan, and also you can argue that every time somebody awakens the Mangekyou Sharingan, there's that discharge of hatred and power that may prompt Sasuke to actually defeat Itachi here, but no. Sure, he may shoot a couple of Amaterasus at Itachi, but Itachi can just use a Susanoo ribcage and tank that with no problem. Even this massively enraged Sasuke wouldn't be able to do anything against Itachi in this part of the story, and then Itachi would simply kill Sasuke, Sasuke get the Mangekyou Sharingan eyes, store them in that weird container that he showed Sasuke in the Tsukuyomi dream, and because the fight against Sasuke wasn't as difficult because Itachi was taking it seriously and not holding back so that Orochimaru could come out, he wouldn't be dying from his disease at this point, because he wouldn't have exhorted himself as much as he did in the original, but he wouldn't be in a very good shape either. Also, we see that Itachi runs out of light in the end of the fight against Sasuke, but yes, he wouldn't use the Mangekyou Sharingan nearly as much here, but still, he probably would have used a little bit. If nothing else, maybe to show visions in the Tsukuyomi cast so that Sasuke awakens his Mangekyou faster. So Itachi would need a transplant as soon as possible. He had to swap those eyes. Now, who would be able to do that for Itachi? I mean, Obito was able to do that. He did that to Sasuke, but I don't know if he would do that to Itachi. He knew he couldn't control Itachi like he was trying to control Sasuke, and that's the only reason why he really gave Sasuke Itachi's eyes in the original. But even still, we saw that Rin was able to transplant Obito's eyes into Kakashi's socket in the middle of a war zone without much prep at all, and she did a pretty good job. After all, Kakashi still had Obito's eyes several years later, so eye transplants don't seem to be extremely difficult in the Naruto verse, and Itachi could simply get a semi-proficient medical ninja who would be able to do that for him, and he would awaken his eternal Mangekyou Sharingan, which does take some time for you to get used to, but it wasn't that long for Sasuke. Only a couple of days really until he started to go into the war arc with his eternal Mangekyou Sharingan and use his power very well. But Itachi would still have the disease problem, and this is something that, yeah, it's gonna kill him because it's very bad or whatever. We don't know what disease it is, but there probably are ways to deal with the disease. Itachi didn't explore those ways because his plan was to die really in the original series. He knew he was not going to survive, so he was just like, yeah, I have to make it through the fight against Sasuke, do everything I need there, and then I can just die. I mean, I'm taking a lot of medicine to stay alive until then, but I don't really have to go for a permanent solution because I'm gonna die anyways. However, after doing all that research to awaken the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan and then to find out how to awaken the Rinnegan, it's likely that Itachi would come across the properties of Hashirama cells. He also had a lot of contact with Danzo and Obito, who have a lot of Hashirama cells implanted onto them, and he could probably try and get some for himself so that first he can heal his own disease, and second, awaken the Rinnegan eventually. And I can see some ways of Itachi doing so. First, he could just, kill White Zetsu and just take his body, implanting pieces of White Zetsu into himself, because White Zetsu is basically 100% Hashirama cells. Alternatively, he could keep Orochimaru alive after the fight against Sasuke to force Orochimaru to transplant Hashirama cells onto him and threaten Orochimaru, if you don't do that, I'm gonna kill you, and that's it. Because Orochimaru was the one who actually did it to Danzo. He gave Danzo's, Hashirama cells arm, and he could do something similar to Itachi here. Or he could find Kabuto and force him to do that for him, because Kabuto was able to transplant Hashirama cells onto Madara's Edo body. There's several methods to do so. I mean, a lot of people get Hashirama cells in the series, and if Itachi was fully focused on that, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to, because he's actually much stronger than most people. And in this version, he would have an EMS, which would already make him way more powerful and dangerous. First, because using his Mangekyou abilities wouldn't damage his eyes, so he could actually spam them as much as he could spam things in his debilitated state with his disease, and the abilities would get much more powerful. Also, his chakra supply would get bigger, because EMS makes your chakra bigger, and he would eventually awaken his perfect Susanoo with a Totsuka blade and a Yata mirror that are massive, and this is a problem, but he probably wouldn't do that before healing his disease, so he would have to deal with that before awakening his perfect Susanoo anyways. Now, if there isn't anyone who can actually give Itachi Hashirama cells, or if the Hashirama cells treatment doesn't work for any reason, maybe it just delays the disease and it doesn't actually heal him, he has other alternatives, mainly Tsunade. And yes, Tsunade is not an ally of Itachi in this scenario, but Itachi could just pay Tsunade a visit and force her to heal him, just like Orochimaru was trying to force Tsunade to heal his arms back in Naruto Part 1, but in here, it would be much more straightforward because Itachi can just put Tsunade on Rinnegan and force her to do so. Now, would Tsunade be able to heal Itachi's disease? Probably, because she was very confident she could heal Orochimaru's arms from the Reaper Death Seal. I don't think whatever disease Itachi has is more powerful than the Reaper Death Seal. Tsunade is the greatest medical ninja that's ever existed. She was able to heal Rock Lee's major wounds on his spinal cord. She even invented a new method for it, so I can see her inventing a new method for Itachi's disease here if it doesn't exist. And yeah, that probably could take time, but Itachi can just, kidnap her. That's not much of a problem for him. He infiltrated the Leaf Village without nobody really noticing him back in Part 1, only when he actually showed himself in the tea shops when Kakashi noticed their presence. But he could get Tsunade, put her under genjutsu, capture her, and force her to heal him. And after she does so, well, he just kills her because she's no longer useful. Or maybe Itachi keeps her because maybe in the future she can be useful to heal other wounds or whatever. But I mean, it doesn't really matter what he does to Tsunade. What matters is that Itachi is fully healed with an eternal Mangekyou Sharingan and access to Hashirama cells, which he's implanted on his body, or somebody else did it for him. Also, in this scenario, the entire Team 7 is dead, and so is Tsunade for all intents and purposes. And as I mentioned before, if Itachi was already extremely powerful, one of the strongest ninjas in the verse, with a base Mangekyou Sharingan and a deadly disease that's killing him, when he has an EMS and no disease whatsoever, he is just that much more powerful. Obviously, he is the strongest Akatsuki member, and as a matter of fact, he is by far the strongest ninja in the verse at this point. The only living shinobi who can give him any trouble is Obito, and Obito was already wary of Itachi when Itachi had a simple MS, but with an EMS, a lot more chakra and stamina, Itachi is stronger than Obito. Yes, Obito has Kamui hacks, but that's not gonna be enough for him to beat Itachi here, especially because Itachi is much more intelligent than Obito. So he probably wouldn't challenge Obito directly. He would still hang around with the Akatsuki and his eternal Mangekyou Sharingan and wait for things to pan out. But because Itachi killed Naruto to awaken Sasuke's MS, it means that the Akatsuki will not get the Nine Tails in several years. They have to wait for the Nine Tails to reform in nature so that they can go and capture it, because the Jinchuriki died with the tail beast still inside of him. Itachi would probably try to keep that quiet, but Zetsu would probably see Itachi doing that. Now, if Zetsu tells that to Obito and what Itachi did to Naruto so that he could awaken his own eternal Mangekyou Sharingan, Obito could try and stop Itachi from finding a cure for his disease, but actually, I mean, I see Itachi getting to Zetsu before Zetsu can get to Obito, especially because Itachi would be aware that Zetsu could be spying on their fight. I mean, it's pretty obvious that he was, and that's the reason why he was playing up his evilness so much to Sasuke in that point of the story. And if Itachi knew he had to kill Naruto in front of Sasuke, he would take the appropriate steps to hide that fact from the Akatsuki and hide Naruto's body as well. But with the Akatsuki not really having the option to capture the Nine Tails anymore, the organization would go into a standstill, and they would just have to wait until the Nine Tails return so that they can actually form the 10 Tails again. And the world of Shinobi would probably fall into a false sense of security as the Akatsuki grows less active, waiting until they can strike back. However, some people could also figure out, oh, they're waiting for the Nine Tails to form back, so let's actually build up our forces so that when they return, we can fight back. This would give Itachi time for him to research how to actually awaken the Rinnegan, because it's actually quite difficult. Yes, the requirements are, you know, Senju Chakra and you having an eternal Mangekyou Sharingan, but it took Madara years upon years for him to awaken the Rinnegan. It was only just before he died that the Rinnegan awakened. The same thing applies to Sasuke, actually. He almost died before he awakened the Rinnegan, even though the process was a little different. And with time to research, it's pretty likely that Itachi would find this information as well, that one can only awaken the Rinnegan after fulfilling all the steps, but you have to be very close to death as well. So this is what Itachi would do. He would force himself into a near-death situation, and then probably cast a genjutsu on somebody like Tsunade, who he would have kept as a prisoner, or another powerful medical ninja, to go and heal him after he put himself into this near-death situation. And because Itachi would have implanted a lot of Hashirama cells and constantly pump more Senju Chakra, after fulfilling all those conditions, he would awaken the Rinnegan. It would be Rinnegan on Madara style, 2 Rinnegan eyes with no Tomoe, in contrast to Sasuke's singular Rinnegan with Tomoe. But he would awaken it regardless. And so now is the question, how powerful exactly would this Itachi Uchiha be? Well, insanely powerful. If he was already the strongest ninja alive with an EMS, with a Rinnegan, well, he just gets exponentially more powerful, and I mean really exponentially. A lot of people say that Itachi has very low chakra reserves, and although Itachi is not the greatest guy when it comes to chakra and stamina, he actually could go for a while using a lot of abilities, especially Mangekyou abilities in the fight against Sasuke, for example. He defeated Sasuke, he defeated Orochimaru in the fight using all of his abilities and stuff, and he still had chakra to keep going if it wasn't for his disease. Now, the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan buffs your chakra reserves, and the Rinnegan buffs them even more. I mean, when Sasuke gets his Rinnegan, his chakra reserves get tens of times larger. He is spamming his perfect Susanoo, he is spamming Chibaku Tenseis, he's doing all those crazy things in the fights against Madara, Kaguya, and Naruto. So clearly his main problem, really, that was his chakra reserves and his stamina, would be kind of solved by him having the Rinnegan. Also, we know that the Rinnegan gives you much more physical prowess. You just get faster and stronger in an exponential rate once you get a Rinnegan. And this is very much explained by Obito when he said, yeah, I couldn't really get the second one because my chakra would explode and it couldn't handle the power, so I only implanted one Rinnegan in the war arc, so I didn't get both. And we see how much more powerful war arc Obito became just because he got a Rinnegan. All of a sudden, he was fighting against my guy Naruto with KCM2, Kakashi, and B at the same time, and he was winning the fight. Sure, Orange Mask Obito was actually really powerful, but he wasn't nearly as powerful as White Mask Obito. And that was just from one Rinnegan, and that Rinnegan wasn't even his, it was borrowed. In this situation, Itachi would awaken his own Rinnegan eyes, which makes you even more powerful. A live Madara in the war arc with a singular Rinnegan was able to drop all 9 tail beasts by looking at them and shoving a limbo clone on them in 30 seconds. Now, would Itachi here be as powerful as that Madara? I would say no, because Madara had much more time to train, practice, acquire experience, become more powerful. But in this scenario, Itachi would have time to progress as well. So yeah, he wouldn't be as powerful as Madara was from the get-go, but there's room for him to become that strong. Naturally, he would get all the base Rinnegan abilities with the 6 paths. I mean, just imagine Itachi using Chubaku Tensei, Shinra Tensei, using the Preta path to absorb ninjutsu and absorb chakra. This would also be very good for Itachi, who, yeah, he has a lot more chakra now, but even if he runs out of it, he can just drain somebody else's chakra and get it for himself with a Preta path. If Itachi could already pull those amazing strategies with just his Mangekyou Sharingan, and sometimes without the Mangekyou Sharingan powers anyways, I mean, the first fight he has against Kakashi in part 1, he absolutely finesses Kakashi with his strategy, and he's just using a base Sharingan. So imagine what Itachi would be able to pull off with all those Rinnegan abilities, combined with his Mangekyou Sharingan abilities, and combined with a perfect Susanoo with the Totsuka Blade and the Yara Mirror. Totsuka Blade can technically seal anything it touches. I mean, it has to be the actual person, but that weapon is absurdly strong, so much so that Kishimoto makes sure to not use it very often, otherwise things would get a little bit boring in the series because you can solo everybody with it. And imagine if a perfect Susanoo wields that sword. Madara's perfect Susanoo was unsheathing his regular Susanoo sword and cutting through mountaintops and like miles away. If he had a Totsuka Blade, he would be even more hacks, and then he has the Yara Mirror, who's said to be able to block any physical attack because it adapts to the properties of the attack and counter it perfectly. So you have this gigantic humanoid perfect Susanoo with the Yara Mirror that can block anything. So like if the Ten-Tail shoots a Bijudama at you, you put the shield in front of you and you block it, because yeah, usually the excuse for the Yara Mirror not being completely overpowered is that, well, it's not omnidirectional, so like you can block everything from all sides, and sure, it won't be omnidirectional here either, but it will be massive, and so it would be, you know, kind of impossible to bypass. Not to mention that the durability of a perfect Susanoo in of itself without the Yara Mirror is already insanely strong. It's able to casually tank Bijudamas, and we see that time and time again. And yeah, Itachi would have all those abilities combined with the Rinnegan abilities, combined with his absurd intelligence and just prowess at being a shinobi. I mean, he would still be able to cast Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu and put people under genjutsus as well. And because he would be an original Rinnegan Awakener, he would get an original ability as well. Because everyone that's awakened the Rinnegan by themselves, and not just borrow it for somebody else, they get an original ability that nobody else has. Hagoromo had the creation of all things, Madara had Limbo, and Sasuke had Amenote Jikara. So Itachi would also get something like that. And yeah, this ability can kind of like be anything because they're very different from each other. Hagoromo can pretty much create anything with his jutsu. Madara can use this clone in an alternate dimension that nobody can see, and it can solo tail beasts. And Sasuke can swap places with anything to avoid pretty much any attack and use several different combos with it. So regardless of the jutsu, it's gonna be extremely powerful. Like, it doesn't matter what Itachi gets here, it's gonna be very OP, and he's gonna just be that more busted because of it. Also, Rinnegan Awakeners are immortal, not in the sense that they cannot be killed, but in the sense that they can live forever if they're not killed by anybody. When Sasuke fought against Naruto in their final battle, he told Naruto, yeah, I am going to be immortal, I can use my Rinnegan for that. And the reason why they can do it is because the Preta path exists, and they can just keep on draining chakra from anybody and rejuvenate themselves, exactly like Nagato does in the fight against Naruto and B, when B lands a Lariat on him on his version 2, and Nagato just drains his chakra. And then, because because, you know, he was an old man when he died. He was brought back as an old man in the Edo Tensei. Not literally old, but he looked like an old man because of the side effects of the Rinno Tensei he cast to revive the entire Leaf Village. He was able to become his younger self by sucking in Beast Chakra, and this is what a Rinnegan user can technically keep on doing forever and never die. So yeah, technically Itachi would have all the time in the world to master the Rinnegan, to become more powerful and proficient with it. And Itachi, a guy that's an absolutely talented shinobi with anything he does. Imagine if he has a Rinnegan, like imagine how powerful he would become and how fast he would do it. He would learn every single ability so fast, and he would be able to pull off the most insane combos so well, it would be insane. Like nobody would be able to touch the guy. Especially in this version of the story where Naruto and Sasuke are dead, and therefore they cannot get their extremely powerful abilities. The only ones who could defeat Madara were Naruto and Sasuke, and they wouldn't be able to do that anyways. It's just Black Zetsu interfered, and so they didn't have to fight Madara, and then they had to fight Kage, who's much weaker. But in this version of the story, none of that happens. Because before the Nine Tails returns to the world, Itachi would say, yeah, I mean, this Akatsuki thing, I am not really a servant anymore. Like, I have the Rinnegan, my dudes. Sure, Nagato also has the Rinnegan, but he's like borrowing it. So the first thing Itachi would do is to kill quote-unquote Madara, aka Obito, go after Nagato, kill him, and then pretty much take over the Akatsuki and become their leader. And if anybody else protests, just kills them. Like, there's nothing much they can do. After all, this version of Itachi is an absolute psychopath. He doesn't care about other people, he just cares about himself and about his own power. And I only see Konan protesting because obviously she loved Nagato and Yahiko and she actually was a good person, but I mean, Itachi snaps his fingers, Konan's gone. Itachi could in theory keep Nagato's Rinnegan in reserve in case he ever loses his own Rinnegan, and maybe even Obito's Mangekyou Sharingan, but even still, like, I don't see why Itachi would have to, because nobody really can challenge him in the verse. And when the Nine Tails coalesces back into the world because Naruto died a decade later or so, Itachi would just look at it and capture with a single genjutsu. I mean, Sasuke was able to put all 9 tail beasts under a genjutsu when he awakened his Rinnegan, so I don't see why Itachi with a lot more experience wouldn't be able to do the same thing. And then Itachi would summon the Geromazu because he's a user of the Rinnegan. He awakened it so he can summon the statue as well. He would seal the 9 tails inside of it, and then he would become the Jinchuriki of the 10 tails, just like Madara did. And at this point, I mean, what is anybody gonna do really? Nobody could do anything against an EMS Itachi, let alone a Rinnegan Itachi, let alone a Rinnegan 10 tails Jinchuriki Itachi. I don't think Itachi would incorporate the Eye of the Moon plan. That's not really his style. He's much more of a psychopath than that. He doesn't really give people like happiness or anything. He's just, I am gonna be your overlord and I am the supreme Uchiha, and if you challenge me in any way, I am just gonna kill you because I am that powerful. And I guess you could say the same thing what happened to Itachi and Black Zetsu was stab him from behind, bringing Kaguya back and all that, but that part of the story is not even canon, so we don't count it here. Itachi would just probably rule the world as the supreme emperor with an iron fist. Kind of like how Sasuke wanted to do things after the war arc, and well, he was telling Naruto, I will unite the world through hatred. But Itachi wouldn't do that because he wanted to end the endless cycle of violence and hatred in the shinobi world and reform the shinobi system who's failed everyone. But because Itachi has a god complex and he thinks he deserves to rule everybody, and he has that right just because he's that much more powerful and intelligent than everybody else. And let's be real, in this version of the story, he totally is. I mean, if Sasuke, Naruto, Obito, Nagato, they're all dead, who's the strongest person in the verse? Like, who can actually fight against Itachi here? The only person I see is Guy with the 8th gate, and Guy wasn't able to beat 10 Tails Madara with a single Rinnegan. I don't see why he would be able to beat 10 Tails Itachi with 2 Rinnegan and much more experience being a 10 Tails Jinchuriki and Rinnegan user than Madara had. So Guy would probably have to fight against Itachi before Itachi became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. And yeah, maybe if Itachi fights against 8th gate Guy when he has an EMS, he would lose to Guy. But even Rinnegan Itachi without the 10 Tails, I don't see him really losing to Guy, simply because he can out-hacks him any day of the week. If you take a look at the Madara versus Guy fight, Madara was just analyzing Guy's movements and taking the hits because he wanted to know how powerful Guy was and how much he could push Madara in that version. But Madara wasn't really counterattacking in the most effective way. He wasn't coming up with amazing strategies to beat Guy. He was just having fun against Guy. And Itachi is not that type of fighter. He's very analytical. He is not the type of guy that to have fun during fights. Oh, let's see how powerful you are like Madara was. No, he would just finish the fight then in there. So yeah, maybe Guy's the best chance they had, but it's not gonna be enough. And the rest of the world combined? Nah, I mean, the 5 Kage couldn't do anything against Edo Madara, who wasn't even trying, so this Itachi is just gonna be way too much. And he would also still have the support of the majority of the Akatsuki. Well, actually, to be fair, I think the only one who'd be alive would be Kisame in this situation, because Itachi would have killed Nagato, Obito, and Konan. He would also have killed Orochimaru, because I don't see him letting Orochimaru live in this verse. And Sasori, Deidara, Kakuzu, and Hidan were dealt with before the Itachi versus Sasuke fight, where things didn't really change in the what-if scenario. So I guess the duo Kisame and Itachi would still be alive and well, and I mean, Kisame's main trait is his loyalty. I'm pretty sure he would be very loyal to Itachi till the very end. In this scenario, it would have paid off quite substantially. And if you're saying I'm exaggerating, Itachi wouldn't kill all those people, it's just too far-fetched. Man, the dude killed his entire clan. He kills a lot of people, it's not a problem for him. Especially this version, who's a psychopath of a guy. And yes, obviously there are points along this journey where somebody could stop Itachi, especially in the beginning. If Obito, for example, manages to stop Itachi before he gets a cure for his disease, yeah, Itachi doesn't get the Rinnegan and he doesn't become the overlord of the planet, but we're talking about a scenario where Itachi gets the Rinnegan and actually uses it. And if we get to that point, there's nobody that can stop him. I mean, maybe if Zetsu's able to make Nagato use the Rinne Tensei and revive Madara after he sees, oh, okay, Itachi got the Rinnegan, we have to do something about it because Obito can't do anything about it, he would still have to get Nagato weak enough so he could dominate him completely and force him to use the Rinne Tensei so that he could bring Madara back. And yeah, that way he could just pluck the Rinnegan out of Nagato and just give it to Madara, who's just been revived, and then Madara can go and kill Itachi while he just has, you know, a very new pair of Rinnegan. That would be a very cool fight. And this is actually a scenario where Itachi versus Madara is not far-fetched like it usually is in versus battles, because as canon stands, Itachi has absolutely no chance against any version of Madara that we can pinpoint the abilities off. But a dual Rinnegan Madara versus a dual Rinnegan Itachi, both alive, would be a really cool fight. I want you guys to comment what do you think Itachi's original Rinnegan ability would be, because I think it would really be something really cool and really powerful. I'll pin the most creative idea. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and please like this video if you enjoyed it, because it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Watch this other cool video right here, and thank you so much for watching, guys.